Hey, it's your coach Zach. Welcome back to the Transparent Talk podcast, where we talk about building clarity, direction, discipline, and confidence in a way that actually is practical and real. And today we are talking about avoidance, not in a super vague way, which is stop procrastinating or be more disciplined, because that is something that people already know. Today, I want to talk you and walk you through an exercise that you can actually do, and I've done with clients before. And this exercise is going to help you take the things that you've been avoiding, break them down in front of you, and then start handling them in the right order. Because a lot of people, most of the time, you actually don't need motivation. It's you need to stop letting the same unfinished things you let sit in your head every single week make you feel like you're further behind than you actually are. Because I find that that is the biggest gap that I see with my clients is just they have everything up here. Before we actually get into the exercise, I want to frame it the right way because almost everybody I talk to has goals and everybody has things that they want to do. They want to fix, they want to build, they want to achieve. They have things that they say they care about. Maybe it's your health, maybe it's your fitness that you care about, maybe it's your business. And definitely getting clear on those goals is a different conversation. Some people are more clear than others, but the biggest thing I notice is that most people do not have a system for managing the things they already know they need to do, at least not a strong system. And so it's not always a goal problem, it's that their life is being managed by memory, urgency, and whatever is the easiest to deal with task in the moment. So if right now you have 10, 15, 20 unfinished things that just sit in your head, your brain has to keep working to hold on to all of it. So there's a cognitive fatigue there. You are trying to remember what you said you were going to do yesterday, what you did not get done last week, what is actually important, and what you cannot ignore for one more day. And doing all of that in your head is not impossible, but it's extremely exhausting. That's why I mentioned cognitive fatigue, because now you are wasting energy just trying to remember everything instead of having a execution place on things that actually matter. And the funny part is people feel like having all of this in your head makes you more productive. It feels like there is a lot going on. And because it feels like there's a lot going on, it feels like you're planning, you're busy, you're keeping up with stuff. But I need you to answer this question honestly. How do you manage your life's tasks and the things that you say you want to do? Is it that you have a place where you write these things down? Does that place move fluidly with your schedule? Or do you write things down, what you need to do for the day on a piece of paper? Then tomorrow you turn the page, and by next week you don't even remember what you wrote down 2 or 3 days ago. Or does most of the time it just live inside your head until you randomly remember something and feel anxious again? Because that is what a lot of people are doing. Some people do not write anything down, so everything stays bottled up inside their mind. Some people write things down on random lists that do not connect to their calendar, their routine, or their actual schedule. So the list gets forgotten and the week changes, and then they have to start all over again. And that is why this exercise we are doing today matters. We are not just making another random to do list of things you need to get done. We are taking the unfinished things you keep carrying around, putting them in front of you, and creating a simple way to decide what actually needs to be handled first. So let's begin. Depending on where you are right now, listening to this episode today, you might not be able to write something down. If you are driving, if you're walking, if you're at the gym, doing something else, you can still get a lot of value from just listening to this and thinking through the questions in your head. But the real value, where you're going to get the most out of today's episode, is if you actually do this exercise on paper, on your phone notes, in your Google Doc, wherever. It doesn't really need to be fancy, it just needs to be written down somewhere. Please. So, if you cannot write anything down at this exact moment, just listen full through the episode, the whole way through, let the framework make sense, and then when you get home or when you have a quiet 10 minutes, actually go through it because the goal is to take the things that you have been avoiding, which we're going to go in a sec, get them out of your head, rank what actually matters, and know what needs to be handled first so you can stop carrying all of it around mentally. That's what we're going to be discussing today. The first part of this exercise is very simple. I want you to write down the things that you've been avoiding. And I know that sounds almost too basic, but this is where a lot of people get hung up and they already start losing because they keep trying to solve the problem while the problem is still floating around inside their head. So I need to ask you this. What are the things that you know that you need to do that you keep pushing off? That is the whole question. Not what are my goals, not what are the things that all the things I could possibly do in the world, what would a perfect life look like, and what does that person do? Just what are the things that you already know that you keep avoiding? And this does not need to be complicated. You can do it on your notes app. The format really doesn't matter that much. What matters is that you can actually see the list in front of you because it is very hard to prioritize something that only exists in a vague feeling in your head. So, for example, your list might sound like check my bank account, pay my credit card, reply to that email, book that appointment, go to the gym, respond to that text, clean up my calendar, finish that proposal, have the conversation, or make the decision that I've been delaying. And the key here is to write down as the actual task, not some vague category. So instead of writing something like money, write open my bank account and check what came in and what left. Instead of writing health, write book the appointment with the doctor. Instead of fitness, you want to go to the gym 3 times. Instead of writing business, write send 5 follow-ups, finish the proposal. Because the more vague something is, the easier it is to avoid. If all you write is get my life together, that is not going to give you anything to act on. That is not a task. That is a feeling. But when you write down the actual thing, now you have something that you can rank, schedule, execute. So that is the first part. Set a timer for 5 minutes and write down the things you've been avoiding. Do not judge the list. Do not organize this list. Do not try to fix everything while you are writing. Just list it out of your head and onto a page. That is what I would like you to do first. Once you have that list in front of you, the next step is to write down why you've been avoiding each thing. And again, this does not need to be complicated. Under each item, I want you to write the excuse, the reason, or the story that you've been using as to why it is not been done yet. So if the item is open my bank account and check what came in and out, underneath you might write, I have been busy, or I do not want to see where I am at financially because I'm scared. I know I overspent and I don't want to deal with it. If the item is go to the gym, underneath it you can write, I feel tired after work. I don't know what my workout's going to look like. I feel off of a routine. I don't feel like starting over again. The reason this part matters is because a lot of avoidance looks logical until you actually write it down. In your head, I have been busy can sound like a reason, but when you write it underneath a task that takes 5 minutes, it starts to look a little bit different because being busy might have been a valid reason for finishing something that was a huge project, but being busy is probably not valid for a reason for not opening your bank account for 30 seconds and paying your credit card. Being overwhelmed might be a valid reason for needing support, but being overwhelmed is not always a valid reason for avoiding every small thing that would actually make your life less overwhelming. And believe it or not, that's what people do. So the second step is not about beating yourself up, it is about telling the truth. Sometimes the reasons are valid, sometimes there really are blockers. Sometimes you need information, more time, or more support on a project, or a better plan, but sometimes the reason is just an excuse that has been sitting in your head unchallenged for too long. And that is what we are trying to see. So go through your avoidance list and under each item, write one sentence answering this question. Why have I been avoiding this? Do not have to make it polished. You don't have to make it perfect. I just want you to actually confront what is the real answer. Once you have that list you've been avoiding, and once you've written down why you've been avoiding each one, the next step is to organize this list. Because at this point, you are probably going to have a mix of things in front of you. Some of them are going to be very important. Some of them are going to be annoying but necessary. Some of them are going to be quick. Some of them are going to take real time. And some of them might not matter as much as they felt like they mattered when they were sitting inside your mind. So, what I want you to do now is take that list and create 2 simple columns next to the list. The first column is priority, and the second column is time estimate. That's it. For priority, you are going to label each thing as high priority, medium, or low. And again, do not overcomplicate this. You are going to know pretty quick. Your instincts will tell you. High priority means this thing actually affects your life, your goals, your money, health, relationships, responsibilities, or direction. Medium priority, it means it's not a thing that is going to create the biggest consequence if it does not get done today. Low priority means it might be useful, it might be nice to get done, but it is not a thing that actually is holding your life back right now. Then for the time estimate side, that column, what I want you to do is write down how long you think each thing would actually take. Would it take just 5 to 10 minutes? Would it take 30 minutes? Would it take an hour? Or is it something bigger that needs to be broken down into smaller steps? And this part's important because a lot of the things we avoid feel massive until we actually estimate the time on it. Then you might realize that paying the bill takes 10 minutes, sending the email takes 5, booking the appointment takes 3 minutes, opening the bank account takes 30 seconds. And when that starts to look at the excuses you set for the avoidance, things start feeling different. Because now you're not just looking at this vague, heavy list, you're looking at the actual tasks with these sizes, because all of them are different. And once you can see the size of the task, you can start making better decisions about what to handle first. Once you have the priority and the estimated time beside each item, the next step is to decide what actually gets handled first. And this is where the exercise actually really becomes useful because now you're not just staring at a messy list of unfinished things, you are starting to see what matters and what does not matter. The easiest place to start is with the things that are high priority with low time. So if something is important and it takes 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, that is usually the first place that I would look because those are the things that remove pressure quickly. If you have been avoiding opening your bank account, it just takes 30 seconds to open an app, to actually look at it, and to see what's going in and out. If you have been avoiding sending the follow up, it takes 5 minutes to write the message and just start there. The goal of this exercise is to start breaking the avoidance loop. It is to start getting things done that you said you were going to get done so you can begin trusting yourself again. That's huge, right? And also, you feel better because the things are no longer sitting inside your head. You are not trying to manage everything through memory. We're not doing that anymore. You are looking at the task clearly, deciding where it belongs, and actually doing something with it. Because once you start handling small things that you've been avoiding, you start rebuilding, like I said, trust with yourself. The task stops feeling like it's this massive thing hanging over you, and you realize that a lot of what's been stressing you out was not impossible. It was just sitting there unfinished. So after you rank the list, I want you to look for the easiest win that actually matters, not the easiest thing on the list, the easiest important thing on the list, because there is a difference there. Checking your bank account might be an easy, important thing. Sending the follow up might be an easy, important thing. Booking the doctor's appointment might be an easy, important thing. But reorganizing your closet might just be an easy thing. And this is where people trick themselves because they do the easiest thing so they can feel productive, but they avoid the easy, important things because that one has pressure behind it. It has an attachment to it. So the filter is simple. What is a high priority? What takes the least amount of time? And what would give me the most relief or momentum if I handled it today? That is where I would start. So pick 1 to 3 things from your list that are a high priority and low time and put them into your calendar. Not saying I'll do it later, not a I'll do it sometime today. Put it into an actual time slot. And this right here, I want to pause and actually talk about calendars for a second because a lot of people use calendars in a way that is not very helpful. They put something in a calendar, they do not get it done at the exact time they planned. And then they treat that as proof that they're not disciplined. I don't know if that's ever happened to you. That system does not work. But that is not really the point of a calendar. The point of a calendar is not to make you feel bad when the life changes your schedule around and you got to move that block. The point of the calendar is not to make you feel bad when life changes. The point is to give the task somewhere to live so it is not floating around in your head still. So if we put something on Monday and Monday gets away from you and that thing doesn't get done, that does not mean you failed. It just means you need to move the task, move the block somewhere else. Maybe it moves till later in the evening. Maybe it moves to tomorrow. Maybe it moves to the weekend. But if it's actually something that matters, and this is the key, because a lot of people put stuff in their calendar that doesn't matter. If it matters, it shouldn't disappear. Okay? If the plan didn't work out, you didn't get it done at 9 o'clock, we move it to tomorrow at 9 o'clock. And that's the way we need to start thinking about it. The goal is not to be perfect. We're not robots. We don't execute every single thing at the exact time that we write them down. The goal is to keep the important things visible in your routine long enough that they actually get handled because your life is going to move. Your energy is going to change as well. Other things are going to come up. So the system has to be flexible enough to move with your life, but structured enough that the important things do not keep falling through the cracks. So, just to bring this all together, the exercise is not really about becoming the kind of person who magically finishes everything on their to do list. That is not what this episode is about, because that is not how life works. Things come up. Your schedule is going to change. Your energy is going to flicker. It's going to change. You're not going to feel like doing it sometimes. Some tasks take longer than you thought. I've had that happen to me many times. On Monday, something matters, but on Friday, it doesn't matter. The point is not perfection. The point is to stop letting everything live as a vague pressure inside your head. So the process is very simple. You write down the things that you've been avoiding. You write down why you've been avoiding those things. Then you add two columns next to each item, how important it is and how long roughly you think it's going to take. And once you can see that clearly, you are no longer trying to manage your life from memory. Congratulations. You can actually make a decision. You can see things which are high priority and low time. You can see which things need a bigger block in your day. You can see which things need to become recurring responsibilities instead of random tasks you remember once every 3 weeks. And, and I think that is a real value because a lot of the time, the thing that you're avoiding is not as complicated as it feels. It just feels that way. It feels complicated because it has been sitting unfinished inside your head for too long. So, if there is one thing I want you to take from this episode, it is this. The things you avoid do not usually get smaller with time, they get heavier. And the longer you leave them floating around your head, the more energy they're going to take from you. So, write them down. Tell the truth to yourself about why you've been avoiding them. Rank what matters, put an estimate to it, put the right things in your calendar, things that are mandatory. And when life changes, move it instead of pretending it disappeared. That is how you start rebuilding trust with yourself. Not by doing things perfectly, but by becoming the person who keeps important things visible until they're handled. And if you like this episode, or if this gave you something practical to actually use, make sure to follow the podcast, share it with someone who needs it, and leave a rating or review. It would mean a lot. It helps the show reach more people who are trying to rebuild themselves and get more clarity and discipline in their own lives. And more importantly, do the exercise. Do not just listen to this and move on. Take the 10 minutes today, open your notes app or a piece of paper and a pen, and write down the list. Because the thing you are avoiding is probably not going to go away on its own. Because once you face it clearly head on, you are going to finally start doing something about it. Thank you so much.